el exec, el vele, el fenómeno que todos quieren ser, el chamaquito que no pueden entender.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to El Exec Talk episode 87. I am your host, Elva Les. Happy that you're here on this beautiful Tuesday morning. This is going to come out probably later today, but this was recorded Tuesday morning. Lots to get into today, including Formula One, NASCAR, the Combine, and the NBA. Now, within those subject matters, very in the weeds, we're going to get into some of them, especially the Combine. I'm going to have some takes. But I'm very excited for this episode 87. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on all of my socials. The links are in the description, and let's get it cracking. So let's start with Formula One, right? So remember when we said that we were kind of like this, right? Oh, we don't want Max Verstappen to destroy us and basically, essentially have the season be over before it even starts, right? Practice told us, and testing told us, it's possible that, maybe he might dominate. Okay. Then we get to qualifying, and there's a little bit of hope that maybe he's not as dominant as they're saying that he is. And then the first lap happens, and he's up by a second and 3/10 on Leclerc after getting to the first corner, and then he finishes the race 22 seconds up on Checo, on his teammate. And then, so I would say about 10 laps in, reality started to set in for all of us as Formula One fans, as again. Now, this was just Bahrain. And I say that because tracks all have different layouts and different characteristics that every car is different at. It could be a downforce heavy track, it could be a slow corner track, it could be a high speed track. The problem with Red Bull is that usually the last couple of years their cars have been good on every track. That's why they won 21 of 22 races last year. Okay, so what we're hoping this year is that somehow, some way, at least at some tracks, for example, COTA here in Texas or Miami or Las Vegas, we're hoping that maybe Verstappen is not as strong, the car is not as strong at every single track. There's going to be some slip-ups. That's what we're hoping for. Right now, doesn't look like it. Okay, but it's just Bahrain. Moving into what happened in the race. People thought that Ferrari might create a push, create some threat. That was quickly kind of quelled by Leclerc essentially having a brake issue from lap 1, and basically he's locking up every turn 10, which is a pretty hard turn. He's locking up his right front. And it's locking on him, because the brake temperature differential was not equal on each tire in the front of the car. So he kept flat spotting his tires. He never recovered. Mercedes had a power unit issue with overheating very early on in the race. It happened to Lewis. George had to nurse it a little bit. George finished 4th. Lewis finished 6th. Or he started 9th. I think he finished 8th. So that's concerning for Mercedes. Alpine was the biggest disappointment. They finished last. Kick Sauber had its problems. Williams had its problems. Everybody had their problems except Max and Checo. Race was over by the first pit stop, and granted, Max did the same thing he did last year, which is basically he outdoes everybody on tire degradation. So he he makes his tires last longer than everybody else, and by a substantial margin. We're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 laps. So everybody's pitted, and when he comes in, he already has a 26 to, I don't know, sometimes 35, 40-second lead because everybody has pitted and he has gone around already. So he extends his lead. He gets to pit. He's not even under the threat of somebody passing him. He gets out of the pit. Their pit crew's pretty good. Averages around 2.7. A good pit stop in Formula One. I mean, elite is like 1.9 seconds. Good is 2.4. The sweet spot is anywhere from 2 seconds to 2.3. That's a good pit stop. You're always going to get a good grade on a pit stop if it's that fast. So he comes in, has his fast pit stop, and then he's up on Checo. After the first pit stop, I think it was still Leclerc in second, but he was up on him like by the end of the pit stop, he was done. He was up by like 7-8 seconds, and once Checo passed Leclerc, it was donezo. Leclerc kept struggling. George Russell passed him, and then Sainz, which wasn't having the brake problem, finished third, which is good for him because he's going to be out of the seat next year because of Lewis Hamilton coming in. So it's very encouraging for him that he's showing good race pace for any team that wants to pick him up next year so he can keep a seat in Formula One. A thing that came out kind of after the race, after the dominance of Max and everything, we've been talking about like the Christian Horner thing. That's Red Bull's basically team principal, the head guy at Red Bull. And he had allegations against him of, I guess, hostile work environment and possibly some not so good behavior within the team. And it's coming out now, rumor-wise, with, kind of pictures of Jos Verstappen, which is basically Verstappen's dad, talking to Toto Wolff, which is the team principal at Mercedes. And some rumblings in the team, Red Bull, that it's splintering apart because of Horner still being there. And there is a chance that in 2025 that the replacement for Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes might be Max Verstappen. I don't know how much these rumors are true, so I'm not going to pay credence to the fact that this might happen, this might not happen. What I'm going to say is, one, it would be a very interesting move for Verstappen, considering that Adrian Newey, which is the king of championships in Formula One, if you have Adrian Newey as your car designer and engineer, you usually win in the chip. And that goes back all the way to the 90s when he was at Williams. But at the same time, it would be very interesting because Verstappen would be leaving the car that has won him 3 championships in a row to go to a Mercedes kind of unproven car since it's a brand new car this year. And next year, the regulations don't change until 2026 where they have to bring in a brand new car. Now, what's interesting is that Ford was looking to be the engine partner of Red Bull in the future. And this type of rumors and stuff like that doesn't bode well for that partnership because Ford is not going to put their name on something that is controversial or in turmoil, trying to return back to Formula One for the first time in, I believe, more than 10 years, if not 15. They haven't made engines for Formula One cars probably since the V10s. I believe it was a Cosworth, the last engine they made. They started with Cosworths as well back in like the early 90s, late 80s. Everybody was running Fords, and they were pretty dominant in the McLarens and stuff like that. And then they kind of got phased out, and they were in the midfield and stuff like that, and then they just kind of left. So they're trying to make a comeback with Red Bull. And that's very interesting because an engine manufacturer and an engine partnership is a partnership not just with the people making your engine, but also the company, Ford. And Ford is not going to want to be in controversial stuff when they're just trying to get their foot back into the grid at Formula One. Do I have hope for the rest of the season? Yes and no. Aston Martin was slower than they thought, but I think Fernando will figure it out and have a pretty good season. I just want to see a little bit of variance. And what I mean by that is I don't want to see a Red Bull win 24 out of 24 races. I want to see maybe, okay, Red Bull wins one. All right, then Leclerc wins one. And maybe Lewis wins one. And maybe Lando wins one. And it just like that for the championship all the way at the end, that makes it exciting. It's not fun when you know who's going to be number one and everything that you're watching for the rest of the season is who's 2 to 20. And how does that stack up? Excuse me. But we have to hold reservations till this upcoming week in Jeddah, and we'll see what happens. Moving on to NASCAR, before we get into the NFL and the NBA. Moving on to NASCAR. It looks like, to me, I couldn't watch the race. I was helping out a friend. Shout out Sadra. I was helping out a friend move some stuff, so I couldn't watch the race. So I watched the highlights. And it looked like to me that Hendrick Motorsports, the one-time giant that won 7 titles in a row with Jimmy Johnson and won titles with Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson, it looks like they're back. The last few years has kind of been a lot of Toyota. It's been a lot of Joe Gibbs. It's been a lot of Martin Truex Jr. Before Kyle Busch went to RCR, he was at Joe Gibbs for, I don't know, maybe 15 years of his career, maybe more. And it was a lot of Toyota, Joey Logano, and they were dominating a lot, leading a lot of laps, winning a lot of races. Hendrick used to be known as that team. And it looks like this year, at least early on, after 3 races, you have 2 Hendrick Motorsports cars winning. You had William Byron last week, which is one of the only. There's only 2 drivers on that team of the 4 that haven't won a championship. The other 2 have. William Byron last week won, and then you had Kyle Larson, the one-time champ, former champion 2021. He won. It looked dominant. He was in the top 5 most of the day. He won. He swept both stages and won the race. So pretty dominant. I'm happy for him because I like him as a driver. I've always liked him as a driver since he got up to Cup. I like the way he drives. He's fast. He's instinctual. Chase is more meticulated. He's more measured. Kyle is more like an instinctual driver. Like it was kind of like he was born to do this. He just knows how to win, knows how to race. And I was very happy to see Kyle win. Very happy to see Kyle win. He beat Tyler Reddick, which means it's a good thing for him because Tyler Reddick went from RCR running the number 8, a really important number. And he gave it to Kyle Busch, and then Tyler went to Jordan Motorsport, Jordan Hamlin Motorsport, which is the 23 and the 45 to run in Toyota. And he's showing that he was worth it. Last year he showed it, and that he was that good of a driver. And now with this equipment that he has, he's also showing it, finishing second. And I think he'll win this year a fair bit. But shout out to Kyle Larson. I like how Hendrick is finally starting to catch up with Toyota. Ford is still strong, but I think right now, I think Hendrick looks like, and Chevy looks like this might be one of their seasons that they're just dominant. Let's move to the meat and potatoes of this episode. Let's talk about the combine. First of all, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Wonderful combine. Coverage, absolutely loved it on NFL Network with Rich Eisen, Daniel Jeremiah, CD. I watched it all from day one. The thing that stood out is that there is 3 blue chips at the quarterback position, 3 to 4 blue chips at the wide receiver position, and 3 to 4 blue chips at the offensive tackle position. On the defensive side of the ball, that number dwindles a little bit. There's not a real like blue chip player on defense, but there's definitely some solid stars on the defensive side, and we'll get to that. So let's get to the biggest news of Combine Weekend. We could talk about Caleb Williams not taking medicals and only saying, "Oh, only the teams that I'm interested in or are interested in me are going to see my medicals." Perfectly fine. You're the number 1 pick right now. You're slated to be the number 1 pick. You were slated to be the number 1 pick before even the college football season started. So cool. You talked to every team. People loved your interview. You had charisma. You stayed to the end of the combine with Roma Dunze and basically shut the lights off. Cool. No problem there. Jaden Daniels, supposedly his interviews were great. He didn't throw as well, but the tape shows you what he can do, and he's gonna throw at pro day just like Caleb and Drake May. Same thing. So let's not talk about those 3. They didn't show us anything. Okay. Let's talk about starting off with my favorite position, the wide receiver position. Let's talk about what happened. First of all, this position has gotten so athletically freaky over the last, I want to say like 5 years, because there's always been athletic freaks, but the number of athletic freaks have kind of like doubled. And like you look at your first round evaluations and you're like, damn, there's a lot of first round grades on guys that are going to go in the second round. A la like a George Pickens or an AJ Brown or a DK. But what I see this time is that, man, not only are these athletic freaks as in build and size, these guys can run. These guys can run routes. So it's not a stiff build. And we're going to get into some of those names, but the guy that we have to talk about is Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, known as a speedster, as a burner from Texas. Okay, on the opposite side of Adonai Mitchell, we're going to talk about. Xavier Worthy, I knew was going to run fast. I had heard rumblings that he might go into the 4.2s. So I was expecting quick. I was expecting fast. The first 40 he ran, which was a 4.25, he ran quick. Like, he got out and it looked like a 4.2. And what I like about this kid is that instead of sitting on his laurels like a lot of running backs did, certain receivers, linebackers, edges, tight ends, they kind of most of them, if they ran a good time, they sat on their laurels. Granted, there was not a record to go catch. At a 4.25, the difference between a 4.25 and a 4.21 is minuscule. And usually it's at the start. The start is what makes your 40 time. That 10-yard split. Okay? And, for him to go 4.25, already the fastest at the combine, and then say, nah, I'm going again to try to break John Ross's record from 2017, speaks to the competitive nature of that kid. Now, he is 165, and that's kind of scary at the wide receiver position. But as the old saying goes, you can't hit what you can't catch. Speed kills. He's not like a Tyreek. He's not built up. He's not rocked up. He's not like a Waddle. Waddle's a little bit more rocked up than him. I would say like he's like a Zay, but Zay's shorter than him. I mean, he's really skinny. I mean, I think he's skinnier than Devontae Smith, than Slim Reaper. But you know how dominant he's been. So he goes back, gets on the line, gets whistled once for Twitch. And I'm like, he lost the mojo. But he gets back down. And that first 10 yards told me, oh my God, he's blazing. And then you go back at the 10-yard split, and he runs a 1.49. What? 1.49? That's sprinter speed. That is Olympic. He looked like Usain Bolt. That 40 looked like Usain Bolt in 2008 when he broke the record and he was pounding his chest before he even got to the line. Now, what does this do for Xavier Worthy? He didn't run routes. He didn't do the workout. He ran. I think he jumped, broad jumped, ran, and that's it. Put on the backpack and everything. People told him to take his cleats off after the first one, after the 4.25. So unofficially, he runs a 4.22, and everybody's like, I think he ran faster than John Ross. And I was thinking like, oh, well, the whole combine, the guy that was timing for the combine was always a 10th off. The whole combine, from day one to the last day, they were always a 10th off, which is incredible. A 100th off, which is incredible to hand time like that. That's crazy to be that good. But it was a former scout, and you know you're trained. You learn how to do that over the years. So when I saw the 4.22, I'm like, "Ooh, it's a possibility that's a 4.21." And evidently, when the officials come out, 4.21, 1.49, 50-yard split. Now, to me, in my evaluation, I have to compare to what I see. Remember, so we're going to go through the 40-yard dashes, and then we're going to look at measurables. And then I'm going to make you understand why I grade some of these guys a little bit higher than an Xavier Worthy. Although Xavier Worthy, for me, climbed up my rankings. He was already pretty high. He was top 7 for me just because of the vertical speed and the big playability. Kind of slated around 32 with the Chiefs would be incredibly scary, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But when I grade these guys, I have to look at measurables, because what is dominating in the league is the Justin Jeffersons, is the Jamar Chase. The Tyreek Hills don't exist. You can't say, oh, Tyreek Hill is dominating. Yeah, but that's Tyreek Hill. That is a 1 of 1. Okay? That is a 1 of 1 mold that is never going to be made. There's nobody going to be that twitched up at that size with that type of route running and hands, jumping ability. I mean, just explosiveness and that type of speed. That durable, because he's been durable his whole career. So I don't look at Tyreek. But I look at A.J. Brown. I look at a DK. I look at a Devontae Adams, a Cooper Kupp. These are molds that we've seen before, have been successful, and we've seen before. Now, the measurables is what separates them. What's the speed like? What's the explosiveness like? How was his workout? And 40-wise, the guys that really, really made an impact on me, besides Xavier Worthy, because of the 4.21, Brian Thomas Jr., freak, an absolute freak. At LSU, the guy on the other side of Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels' second favorite target, his favorite touchdown target, because he got 17 of them to lead the FBS this last year. 4.33 with a 1.50 10-yard split. We're gonna get into measurables a little bit later. I just want to run through the 40s. Another guy, freak, that I knew was a freak at Georgia. This past year was a freak at Texas. Adonai Mitchell, AD. 4.34. 152. 10-yard. When I give you the heights of these guys, it's gonna start sinking in. Tez Walker from North Carolina went 4.36. Roman Wilson went 4.39 out of Michigan. Lad McConkey, hands. Everybody's like, oh, white receiver, hands catcher. Gotta see, he's a good route runner. No, he has speed. 4.39. Xavier Legette, a guy that is kind of compared to DK, is not as tall as him, but his build is like DK. He runs a 4.39. Odunze runs a 4.45. He's my wide receiver number 3. He stays at wide receiver number 3. Although I like him because of his height and his jumping ability. I like him at 2, but I like Malik Neighbors' elite speed that we haven't seen yet. I think he's gonna do it at his pro day. And just, it looks like he's more explosive with his ball in his hands. With the ball in his hands. So Odunze has a 1.52 10-yard split, but he runs a 4.45. And I was watching it with my dad, the wide receivers, and I was like, all I need from you is a 4.4, and you solidify yourself as a number 3. I already seen tape. I've seen you play. I know how you play. You're a physical, hands, can catch it over anybody, is going to fight for the ball, and you're a terrific receiver. So all I need to know is that you're not a 4.5 guy. All I need is a 4.4. Boom, 4.45. Cemented. And then he goes into the drills and does great. Does great. Running routes, the comebacks, the out routes, deep ball, everything. Hands, everything. Looks the part. What it was on tape matches up to the workout. That's what you want. Okay? That's what you want. Jalen Polk ran a 1.52, his Washington teammate. Okay? Now let's get into measurables. Okay? Because that's where this really gets crazy and where I say, oh my God, there's some freaks in this class especially. Okay? There is some legit freaks. Okay? So when we look at best available at the wide receiver position, we have Marvin, right? 6'4", 205. That's done deal. Malik is 6 foot 200, but elite speed and elite ball skills. Okay. Rome is 6'3", 215 and ran a 4.45 at 6'3", 215. What that tells me is that he's a big play receiver, big catch radius, but I don't have to worry about him being slow because he creates separation with the 10-yard split. That's called early acceleration. That's early separation. That means like if there's a guy in front of you in press coverage, your acceleration can surprise him and then make him take a false step, and then you already have him beat. Okay? Now, Brian Thomas Jr., we talked about the 40, right? But he's 6'4", 205. Running a 4.33 at 6'4", 205. That's an athletic freak. That instills absolute fear into a defense. Why? Oh, well, he's not small, so you can't jam him off the line. Guy's pretty big. And 2, he can either hit you with as a red zone target, within the 20, throw it up, he'll go get it. But at the same time, he could blow the top off your defense at 6'4", 205. That's a freak. Okay? That's a freak. Another freak. Xavier Legette, 6'3", 227. Now you understand why he's compared to DK. Now, DK, I believe, was 6'4". So an inch. But 227 is pretty DK-ish. And he looks the part. Jumps out the gym, super explosive. And again, runs a legit 4.39 at 6'3", 227. Which is like AJ Brown. AJ Brown actually was, I think, was slower. I think he was 4.41. I think AJ ran a 4.4 because DK ran a 4.3. So these are freaks. And then the last freak for me, is Adonai Mitchell. At 6'4", 196, he blazes you at 4.34. You know, with a 1.52 10-yard split. That you don't see that. You don't see that. That's not something that grows on trees. Now, my top 5 wide receiver rankings, and I have them right here. I jotted them down. And we're going to do this for every for every position group. But my top 5 wide receivers are Marvin Harrison Jr., Maserati Marv, that's 1. Malik Neighbors, 2. Rome Odunze, 3. Everybody has those 3. Nobody's changed them. It's been like that since the end of the college season, was those 3. I got Brian Thomas Jr. number 4, and I got Adonai Mitchell number 5. Behind those, you still have first-round grades. Xavier Legette, Xavier Worthy, you know, let's talk about Keon Coleman. Oh, but he ran a slow 40. It's like, yeah, he ran a 4.6. Not great. But Puka Nacua last year ran a 4.6, I believe. And then he hit 20.24 miles per hour on the gauntlet drill. And what the gauntlet drill shows you is how worried is the receiver about his hands. If you're not worried about your hands, you could run full speed and catch any ball. That's what that drill teaches you. Besides getting your eyes on the ball, putting your hand placement, catching quick, and all that, and also maintaining your route, not weaving. Okay? Keon Coleman did the best on that gauntlet drill, even though he ran a 4.6. So what that tells me, if I tell this dude, hey, run me a 10-yard in cut, he can run that in cut full speed and run through the ball. What does run through the ball mean? Catch it and keep going. Do not hesitate. Don't take a jump step. Don't slow down 5% to try to catch the ball because you're worried about your hands. So to me, Keon was up there in my top 5. I bumped him down to, I believe he's my 7. Xavier's my 6 because of that speed. Keon's my 7th, but he's still a first-round grade for me because what I see on tape is absolutely incredible. The guy's a beast. I mean, he's 6'4", 190. I mean, Keon's 6'4", 215. He's a beast. And when you see it on tape, he's a beast. He goes over people. He can route run. He's a beast. But the speed's not there. Yeah, but I know that if I tell him, hey, run me a 10-yard in cut, when he cuts, I know that he's running straight and at full speed and running through the ball. I don't have to wait. I don't have to be as a quarterback, throw the ball and then hope that he gets there, or hope that he doesn't hesitate and can't run through the ball, gets tackled, or with his hesitation, the ball gets batted down. But because of the 4.6, I had to drop him down. He was in my top 5. He was actually my 5th. Started out as my 4th at the end of the college season. But I saw Brian Thomas Jr. and then Adonai Mitchell puts in a 4.34, and that changes things. The funniest thing about this draft class is that there's more names. Troy Franklin, 6'3", 187. Now, didn't run as fast as I thought. He looked a lot faster on tape, which could be game speed. You know, how do you wear your pads? Like how fast do you wear? How fast do you look when you're in pads? That's different. Jermaine Burton did well. Ricky Pearsall, 6'1", 190. Okay, 4'4", excellent route runner, absolute technician. I loved him at Florida. Excellent hands. He's a first round talent that will fall into the second round. And we have a lot of those in this class. We have a lot of those. Roman Wilson, Jalen McMillan, Tez Walker. Brendan Rice did a pretty good job for himself. You know, Luke McCaffrey, which is Christian's little brother out of Rice. You know, he showed off a little bit of speed. You know, Malik Washington out of Virginia. Jalen Polk. But to me, somebody's going to make a mistake. And what do I mean by that? Well, if we go through the rounds, the mistake is going to come. So I think Harrison's going 4. Neighbors can go number 6 to the Giants. He can go 9 to the Bears. Adunze could also go 9 to the Bears. 10, there could be a possibility for a wide receiver. 11, that's the Vikings. They're either taking quarterback or going somewhere else, defensive side. Broncos are going J.J. McCarthy. 13 is quarterback or receiver. I think that they could also be a candidate for Brian Thomas Jr. But what do I say they're going to be a mistake? There's going to be a mistake because one of them will fall through the cracks. And what crack am I talking about? That 32nd pick. I don't think that there is a doubt in my mind that Kansas City's not going wide receiver round 1. Now think about this. Let's say I have a first round grade on 6 or 7 of these guys. There's not 6 or 7 teams that need wide receivers. But I guarantee you that one team that doesn't need a wide receiver might take one just to not let him get to Kansas City. But there's one going to slip through the cracks because there's too much talent. So there's going to be the demand is not as high. So there's going to be one through slips through the cracks. Now, you ask me, hey, Velez, but which one could slip through the cracks? What would be the worst case scenario? If you ask me, the worst case scenario is Adonai Mitchell or Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy gives you the Tyreek Hill type of blow by you speed with still having Kittle and Rashee Rice. And Adonai Mitchell gives you elite speed with elite size and catch radius ability, which also putting him against next to Kittle, next to Kelsey, and Rashee Rice also creates a problem. One of them's going to slip. Now, I think somebody's going to pick Xavier Worthy over someone, whether it's Leggett, Pearsall. I feel that the speed, the 4.21 is going to enamor a team. It used to happen to the Raiders. I don't think this year it will happen. But that's what I see with this receiver class. Someone will slip through the cracks. And even in the second round, you're getting first round talent, whether it's Ricky Pearsall or Roman Wilson or Xavier Leggett or Tez Walker. You know, you're getting really Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan. You're getting really good value and most likely production in the second round, maybe the third round. Okay? Just based on how the draft falls. But I think somebody's going to slip through the cracks. Let's move on of position. Top 5 O-linemen. This O-lineman class has, like I said, blue chippers. Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, J.C. Latham, Talisi Fuaga, Troy Fatano. Alt is insane. Alt 6'9". Feet like a ballerina. He's going to be the top tackle. He's going to the Chargers. Period. Fashanu's great, but it's all about, from there on, is what do you like? Do you like feet? Do you like size? Do you like facing competition? Do you like nastiness? Do you like technician? That's what it's going to come down to. But they're all blue chippers. They're all guys that you could put at your left tackle spot and or right tackle spot, and you could feel pretty good for the next 10 years. I think Alt has a possibility to be a multiple-time All-Pro. Same thing with Latham, Fashanu. I mean, you're talking about schools that create Hall of Famers. Notre Dame, Penn State, Alabama. Fuaga, Oregon State's probably the best mover, feet-wise, in this draft. And Fautanu from Washington is just not allowing people through. He allowed 0 sacks in his career. So when it comes to offensive linemen, I'm looking at, of course, the Chargers, Raiders. I mean, going through the first round at least, Dallas, maybe the Rams, even the Steelers, Bengals, Jaguars, Saints. There's and of course Tennessee at 7. I think also are going to go offensive line. Probably Olu Fashanu or Fuaga, J.C. Latham, one of those. These guys are athletic freaks. Now, I don't like that they're running the 40. Oh, Velez, but they have to run the 40. No, they never have to run the 40. All they have to do is a 10-yard split. Let them run 20 yards. We had, I think, 3 hamstring injuries and 1 groin injury within 2 groups of offensive linemen the last day of the combine, including J.C. Latham and Troy Fautanu, I think, or Fashanu. I think both of them got hurt running their 40s. That's not good, because then you don't get to see their footwork in the drills. You know what I'm saying? So, but this O-line class is absolutely deep and stacked, at least in the first round. And there's good value in the rest of the draft. Let's go to top-time D linemen. I said D linemen. That means this is a combination of D tackle and edges. Dallas Turner is the number 1 defensive player in this draft. And when you look at the measurables and, his 40 and everything, not really much of a conversation. It's kind of what you like. It's kind of what you like. Do you like, the guy's in Alabama. The guy is an Alabama edge. What about Will Anderson and all the guys that come out of Alabama? What hasn't come out and been good? Not even saying great, good out of Bama. One thing about this class, especially this Bama class, this is the last class of Nick Saban as a coach. This is the last class Nick Saban coached and will coach. There's a sense of pride there for these guys. Professionalism. So to me, I ranked my top 5 DLs. I went Dallas Turner, Alabama. Killed the combine. Killed it. Destroyed the combine. Jared Verse killed the combine. FSU. He's been slated up there since last year. And he went back to try to up his stock, and he did. Latu, smooth operator. Ran a good 40. Smooth operator. Bend, technique, feet. Everything was silky smooth. Chop Robinson, probably the biggest riser. Incredible 40. Showing how Penn State edges are just built different outside linebacker-wise. And outside linebacker and edge, they confuse it. But to me, it's an edge, bro, because I see you on tape and you're rushing the passer. You're not an outside linebacker. Whether your hand's on the ground or you're playing a 9 technique, or your head up, to me, you're an edge. You are on those four, rushing the passer. Your responsibility is not blitz. Your responsibility is quarterback. You don't have to worry about blitzing. That's a linebacker thing. You are an edge. Outside linebacker, whether you want to call it or everything, like they call TJ Watt an outside linebacker. So TJ Watt's an edge. Nick Bosa's an edge. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's just how I look at it. And Byron Murphy, the D tackle out of Texas. Now, Tavondre Sweat showed out big, but what I saw from Byron Murphy was this fluidity that I could definitely see translating to the next level. And possibly that's a guy that you can move inside and outside. You know, Chris Jones like. You know, he has the build and it looks like he has the fluidity to do both and the quickness. I really like this edge class. It's stacked, but you got to be careful. What do you want? Explosiveness, suddenness, or technician? That's what you're asking yourself. When you look at tape, do you want a guy that with his hands he's golden, Latu? Or do you want a guy that just beats guys? There is technique there, but it's mostly athletic ability, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, which are freaks. You know, so it's all about what you like. And then also for D tackle, do you want Tavondre Sweat, which is going to be quick? They trying to compare his feet like Vita Vea because he's quick off the line. Or do you want Jonathan Allen, Christian Wilkins type where he can plug up the run, but not only just rush the passer? That's what you're looking at there. Byron Murphy's more of a pass rusher. You know. So I like this edge class. The linebacker class is where it's weak. Linebacker and safety. These are the weakest parts of this draft. I went with what I saw on tape. I've always liked Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M. And I've always liked Kalen DeLoach, Jeremiah Trotter, and Edufwan Olufashio from Washington. I've always liked those guys. I saw them play a lot, especially DeLoach from FSU, Jeremiah Trotter from Clemson. Edgerrin Cooper just looks different. He just moves up faster than anybody. And then Olufashio is a sure tackler from Washington. I saw him in the semifinal all year, and then also in the national championship. So linebacker, I think, is going to be a second to third round position. Cornerbacks. Very interesting. Very interesting with cornerbacks. And why do I say that? Because Terrion Arnold came as mostly everybody's cornerback one. Nate Wiggins in that discussion. So was Kool-Aid McKinstry and the guy from Toledo, Quinyon Mitchell. Now, if we look at what happened at the combine, Nate Wiggins runs a 4.28, which you can see on tape. You can see the speed on tape. Runs a 4.28, pulls his I believe it was abductor, a hip flexor. Doesn't do the drills, so we can't see him in the drills. So his speed is there, but we couldn't see him work out, so we have to go off of tape. Or he's going to be good for his pro day, we hope. So he kind of solidifies himself at that probably third spot. Why do I say that? Because Quinyon Mitchell showed everything you wanted from a cornerback. He's kind of like this guy. He comes from Toledo, so he's like Tariq Woolen when he came out. Except he was a fifth rounder, which, you know, a lot of people got to question on that. But runs a 4.33, is a dog on tape. And compared to Terrion Arnold, who runs a 4.5, but played at Bama and did really well, that's what you have to compare. So to me, it's Terrion Arnold just because he played at that elite competition and still was regarded as one of, if not the best corner in the country. Quinyon Mitchell number 2, 4.33. The workout was incredible. Super smooth hips, transition, speed, maintaining his speed, hands. Everything was off the charts when I saw him. Nate Wiggins didn't work out, but the speed is there, and I know the tape shows that he could be a lockdown corner. Mike Senra still. Like, oh, Velez pulling out of Michigan here? It's like, yeah, I'm pulling out of Michigan. You might think like, oh, what about Kool-Aid? Well, Kool-Aid didn't do nothing. Kool-Aid was found with a Jones fracture in his foot and basically opted to do his pro day later instead of doing anything at the combine and probably like risking maybe fracturing it more or anything, even though it was unnoticed through his whole college career and it happened in high school, supposedly. So I don't know how to rank Kool-Aid, although I like his tape. And if I could put him somewhere in the top 5, I would put him 5 because I would have liked to see him run. The thing I like about Mike Sanders still is I saw him at Michigan. He was the leader of that defense. He was the one that made the biggest plays, the biggest tackles from his safety spot. And if I had a number 1 safety, it's between him and Kitchens didn't run as well. You know? And then Ennis Reckestraw Jr., I believe it's Reckestraw or Rinkenstraw, excuse me if I'm butchering that, from Missouri, is just a cornerback that thumps you. Physical. You know, not going to be a burner, but he's going to hit you. Kind of like a Brandon Browner, Richard Sherman, even though he was more of a cerebral type of corner, but a physical corner. L'Jarius Sneed, physical corner, up in your hands. Darrell, not comparing him to Darrell Revis. I was just saying Darrell Revis was very physical. So that's my top 5 cornerbacks. I like Terrion Arnold. I believe he's going to be the first one taken. But I really like Quinyon Mitchell. I like what that kid brings. And Nate Wiggins, we just have to see at the pro day. But his film is really good out of Clemson. Sanders still was just smooth. Smooth transitions, smooth running, hands, quick processor. Like, you know, I just like Sanders still. Tight ends. Another, you could say deep class, but not really. There's one blue chip, which people have kind of forgotten. They don't talk about him. And that's obviously Brock Bowers out of Georgia. He should go. If we look at the draft order, he should go top 15. And the teams that could take him could be the Jets, to some extent the Vikings, the Saints, Colts, Seahawks, Jaguars, Bengals, Rams, the Dolphins, although I don't think he'll get there at 21. Trust me, I do not believe that. Yeah, Ferguson's at the Cowboys. Musgrove is at the... Tampa at 26. He won't be there. That's about it. If we're talking about tight ends. I think he's going... Very possible he goes at 10 to the Jets. Very possible. Now, what I like about him is he's kind of like a Kelsey Kittle hybrid. And what I mean by that is basically he has the scariness of a good blocker, so he can block his ass off. Scary blocker. But the athleticism and the speed, granted, he didn't run the 40. I don't think he did any drills, to be honest. Because he knows he was going to be the number 1 tight end taken. He has the athleticism and the speed to be Kelsey. And you saw it with the production at Georgia. He was hurt this past year. I look at it more last year. Like, it was legit. He was basically the number 1 target on that offense. And so he's my number one. Jatavion Sanders from Texas is my number two. I just like the athletic build. I like the fluidness. I think he's going to be a big play tight end at the next level. Theo Johnson, again, Penn State runs fast. So he rose his stock. He rose his stock because of the 40. He did the drills pretty well. Devin Culp out of Washington ran pretty well. Good drill work. And then Kate Stover comes from Ohio State, a university that creates tight ends. I think Brock Bowers is in a different tier, though, than Jatavion Sanders and everybody else. And I think whoever gets him is going to realize pretty soon into training camp and OTAs that this guy's different at his position. And he's going to be really good for a really long time. If we go to running backs, another kind of low talent pool position when it comes to the rest of the draft. Jonathan Brooks couldn't run ACL when he was at Texas, but he's number one on mostly everybody's board as the running back. Jalen Wright rose the most out of Tennessee. He's my second. Troy Benson with that, he ran a 4.3, I believe. He's my third. Ray Davis out of Kentucky. I've liked him ever since I saw him at Kentucky, and he did really well in the drill work, ran pretty good. And Marshawn Lloyd out of USC impressed me in the workout, and just how big he is and everything like that. Now, you might say, oh, what about Blake Corum? Everybody has him like at number 2, number 1. Listen, man, Blake Corum for me is the guy that you would give the ball 20 times to, but you're also not expecting, 150, 60 yards from him on 20 to 25 touches. He's going to get inside. He has good vision, good feet, good balance, but the burner is not there. That's why I like kind of Benson more. Jonathan Brooks has speed. We'll see how he does off the ACL. And Jalen Wright ran really good. I like Blake Corum. Love him. He's a winner, leader, chiseled up, rocked up. It's just, for my cup of tea and my running backs, I like a little bit more juice. But everything else he has. So he's not far behind in my top 5. And then when we get to quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, like I said, didn't do anything. Neither did Jaden Daniels, neither did Jake May. Jake McCarthy, to me, is going to the Broncos at 12. He solidified himself as the number 4 quarterback in this class. People said, oh, he doesn't throw enough. Guys, they went 15-0, won the championship, running the football and playing good defense. Sometimes you just stick to what you're good at, okay, what you can dominate at. But what he showed in the workout was velocity on the ball, can hit guys on target, on time, and it was a smooth operator. His athleticism, he's athletic freak-wise. You saw why he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. And on tape, I'm gonna go to Dan Orlovsky or Chris Sims when he says, "Okay, I'm Jim Harbaugh. I can run the ball 35 minutes in a row, and then we're at a 3rd and 12, and I tell JJ, hey, can you rip this seam to keep us going? 35 minutes that you haven't thrown a ball. That's hard." And the fact that he did that so consistently at Michigan in big moments, you look at the pass to Roman in the national championship or in the semifinal when he passed to Cornelius or Loveland, like all those throws are within the flow of the offense, but when they needed him the most, 3rd down, key situations, 3rd and long, 2nd and long. So that, to me, shows me if a guy like Sean Payton gets his hands on him, he'll turn him into a superstar. So I think that he solidified himself as quarterback 4. in this draft. And then number 5 to me is Bo Nix, because I like Michael Penix, but the injury concerns, although he cleared them all at the combine and he threw the best, honestly, out of everybody, I feel like everybody's just going to hold that against him and pick Bo Nix. 61 starts, most ever in the history of college football. Threw well. I like Penix more. Like I said, I would put Penix 5. But I know that teams will be hesitant to draft Penix, especially in the first round. Bo Nix is slated to go in the first round, although I would take Penix. They're the same age, so I would take Penix over Bo just because of the throwing ability. Michael Penix showed exactly what he showed on tape at the combine. The tightest spiral, a natural throwing motion, absolutely effortless when throwing the deep ball, when throwing any route, to be honest. It was incredible to me. And everybody else thought the same. Just looked different. And imagining that type of throwing ability in the league, a team is going to be very happy. Now, Drake May at 3 is pretty consensus. And like I said, I think it goes Caleb, Jaden, Drake. And even the Patriots might bring in a free agent. They're looking at Joe Flacco or Jacoby Brissett to bring, I'm guessing, to bring him in, play that this year, and then Drake to learn, because his footwork, according to everybody, is just really sloppy. It's not there yet. He needs the Jordan Love treatment. Not 4 years, but development with his lower half to be connected to his upper half to unlock the full potential. So I think Jaden Daniels, and some people, and Orlovsky of ESPN has Jaden Daniels over Caleb. And his reasoning is that, one, Jaden Daniels is the best deep ball thrower in this class when it comes to man-to-man coverage. He knows where to put the ball and does it consistently, on time, on target, more than anybody. Doesn't turn the ball over. Still has the elite speed and athleticism to run and create plays. But there's more on tape, Dan Orlovsky's thoughts. There's more on tape that can translate to the NFL than what Caleb has on tape. Now, Caleb is, shows off the generational talent of the off-platform throws and the sidearm and the running to his left and just cocking his hip back and throwing a laser to the sideline. Like, he has that ability. But at USC, some of the concepts and everything that they did, because the offensive line was poor, because the talent on the outside, although, Zachariah Branch, and you had Taj Washington, and you had Brendan Rice, yeah, but it wasn't Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., I'll tell you that. Kind of shows up on tape. That's why some people go to the 2022 film when he won the Heisman, when he had Jordan Addison, and kind of evaluate him through that lens, and then put a caveat on this past season because of, the shortcomings that team had, that he had to basically blow everybody out, or not, he was losing. But I think because Ryan Poles was at the Kansas City Chiefs when they took Mahomes and saw what Mahomes did, I think he's going to be enamored with Caleb Williams. Supposedly his interviews went well. Everybody fell in love with Jaden Daniels and Drake May in interviews, but Caleb, they liked him a lot, and I think he's going number 1. I think Justin Fields probably finds his way to Atlanta, because since Patriots seem like they're looking for Joe Flacco and a veteran like Jacoby Brissett to maybe bridge a year when they draft Drake May and stuff like that. So I think he's going to Atlanta, but we'll see. Other things that came from the combine, rumors and free agency and what have you. Russell Wilson will be released. Remember I said J.J. McCarthy gets taken at 12? That's why I say that. Because Russell Wilson's getting released. The Broncos, the Walton family, the richest owners in the NFL, are taking a league history high $85 million cap hit. Holy shit. $85 million. That's how much you don't like this guy. Just paid him, taking $85 million cap hit to get him out of the building. Hey, when Sean Payton says I don't like him, they're going to listen. Super Bowl winning coach and also a future Hall of Fame coach. L'Jarius Sneed, officially franchise tagged. Must pay Chris Jones. Chris Jones will be making around what Aaron Donald makes, if not break the record for D-tackle defensive line contract. Mike Evans signs I have it all right here. I bookmarked it all on Twitter. Mike Evans signs a 2-year, $52 million, $35 million guaranteed to stay with Tampa. I told you the Chiefs were not going to pay. Why? Look at the draft class. Why would I give away $52 million in the cap, $35 million guaranteed for 2 years for a receiver that is 30 when I can get Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, even maybe Xavier Legette at pick 32, and I have him for 10 years? That's you get what I'm saying? Like, the math doesn't match up for the Chiefs. There's no need to go make a big splash, especially for receiver, when you've shown that you can draft receiver well. Rashee Rice, Sky Moore hasn't popped off, but Watson, I think he was a 6th-round pick. But you know that you can draft talent. You drafted Tyreek Hill. You drafted in the 5th round because of the questions and concerns, but you drafted Tyreek Hill. So to me, I think that you hang on the hat that you know how to draft. Same thing with cornerback. You hang on the hat that you know how to draft, and you've been good at it, one of the best in the NFL for a long time. And you're like, let's not pay the high price free agent. Let's just go into the draft and get one of these freaks. One of them will fall. I promise you, one of them will fall. Because not every team has a need at wide receiver. Now, there is a propensity. People are saying maybe 7 wide receivers in the 1st round. Okay. Well, that means Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr., Adonai Mitchell. And then it's a fight between Xavier Worthy, Legette, Pearsall, Troy Franklin, McMillan, Polk. That's what you're dealing with. McConkey. You imagine you let Ladd McConkey fall to the Chiefs? That type of hand of winner. That's bad. Ricky Pearsall, that's bad. Like, you're looking at a bad case scenario for everybody in the NFL, no matter who slips through the cracks, because they're all good. It's not like you can pick a bad pick with the first 8 or 9 receivers. So, shout out to Tampa. Definitely a chip in their a chip to their cap. A feather in their cap to try to keep Baker Mayfield is like, keep his number 1 receiver, the future Hall of Famer. Now keep him there. He's still great, one of the best. So that's a selling point for Tampa. $35 million guaranteed, and he's 30. I think he's going to be great still. He's in great shape. He's durable. Can get hurt, but I don't think he puts his body through that much stress anymore. Gets hit and everything. He kind of just blows by your defense still. So I think it's going to be a good sign. I think it's a good signing. The Dolphins. Listen, man. You do not find. Let me say this very clear. You don't find Chris Jones's, Aaron Donald's, Jonathan Allen's, Quinnen Williams, Dexter Lawrence's, Vita Vea's, you don't find them every draft, and you don't find them everywhere. Those are unique individuals. Whether it's power to speed, whether it's speed to power, whether it's quickness, whether it's slipperiness, whatever it is. Christian Wilkins is in that tier. And guess what? We told Christian Wilkins, we're not franchise tagging you. He's looking for money like Quinnen Williams. He's looking for number one receiver, number one D tackle type of money. He's in the Cameron Wolf, one of the reporters. Christian Wilkins not tagged and set to sign a massive free agent deal in the next 2 weeks. Two execs in Indy at the Combine predicted to me that he could be match or top Quinnen Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, Dexter Lawrence, $22 to $25 million. Yeah. That's how good he is. He had 9 sacks last year from a D tackle spot, plus stopped the run. He made our interior defense scary with Zach Sealer, and then on the outside, Bradley Chubb and Latu. What does that mean for us? If we can't sign him, we can't draft Latu, because there's no way that we're going to win anything if our interior defensive line cannot stop the run. And he's our run stopper. He can get sacks. He can rush the passer from the D tackle spot, which is a rare trait. But also, he can stop the run. So if we allow him to sign somewhere else, guess what we have to do? We have to pivot from drafting somebody like Latu or maybe Chop Robinson that might be there at 17 to drafting like somebody like Tavondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, Jerswan Newton, Braden Fisk out of FSU. That's what we're looking at. I'd rather have a D tackle than add another edge. Yes, both of our edges are coming off of massive injuries. One's an ACL late in the season. The other one's an Achilles late in the season. So when we have him back, I get it. Draft Latu, have him as a day one starter. I get it. But what are we going to do about interior defensive line? Christian Wilkins is the best defensive lineman, interior, in this free agency class. Chris Jones will stay at Kansas City. He's not going nowhere. Don't think that he's out there. Plus, if you don't want to pay Christian Wilkins, what makes you think that you want to pay Chris Jones? He wants $32 million. He wants to be with and Aaron Donald. So you don't want to pay premium for Christian Wilkins because I'm guessing you are trying to keep the cap money set aside for Tua later in this offseason to give him the long-term contract. I get it. Who are you franchising? Who? I would have franchised Christian Wilkins. That's my personal opinion. Hopefully we don't lose him, but it looks like we will. L'Jarius Sneed gets hit with the tag. They're open to trading him for the right price. Russell Wilson getting cut. They avoid $37 million fully guaranteed, the extra. But they still have to pay the $85 million cap hit. But I think Sean Payton already has a plan, and he's going to draft J.J. McCarthy. Unless he gets... I mean, this is how the draft works. If he gets circumvented by the Atlanta Falcons because the Atlanta Falcons don't get Justin Fields, and the Atlanta Falcons take J.J. McCarthy, now he has to pivot to Bo Nix. He has no other out. Maybe he takes Penix, but he has no real other... maybe he could go after Kirk Cousins, but he has no swivel. So I think he's banking on JJ being there at 12. The NFL season is crazy. It's nuts. The Giants are not franchise tagging Saquon. He's going to leave. Where could he go and make the maximum impact? Well, if Eckler's not happy at the Chargers, he could go to the Chargers. If the Cowboys say, oh, well, Tony Pollard, he's not what we want, need something more explosive, well, they go Saquon. Tennessee, oh, Derrick Henry's out. Well, let's get Saquon. There's definitely some teams out there that could use his services and would be very willing to, top dollar at running back. It's been so devalued. But I think there's teams out there that see what he can do and will pay him accordingly. He's still in his 20s. So he still definitely has the ability to, McCaffrey type impact if he goes to the right place. Now there's other teams that can stack. You can look at the Bills. You look at Baltimore. I don't want to say the Steelers, but possibly the Steelers, the Browns to pair them up with Chubb. There's places that people can stack and have a legit running back core that you split the carries and you feel great about whoever's carrying it. For example, Colts, Jonathan Taylor and him. Browns, Nick Chubb and him. Steelers, whether it's Jalen Warren or Najee Harris and him. The Jets, you put Breece Hall and him. The Bills, you put James Cook and him. There's combinations that are insane. Tampa Bay, him and Rashad White. Depending, I think the Vikings are kind of in the mix now that Madison may probably moving on. If they want to pair somebody with JJ, and if they sign Kirk Cousins, which we shall see, they're supposed to sign him again, but we'll see. But very interesting how the free agency and tags are progressing along. Moving on to the NBA. Oh, one last thing on NFL. Thank you, Jason Kelsey. The future first ballot Hall of Fame center, also considered by most as the greatest center of all time. To me, it's him and Jeff Saturday. 1-2. 6-time All-Pro, Super Bowl champion with the Eagles in 2017. Made it again in 2022 with the Eagles when they lost to Kansas City to his brother. Retires after 13 years. 7 Pro Bowls, 6-time All-Pro. First ballot Hall of Famer. One of the best leaders in the NFL. One of the best examples in the NFL. Now has the now goes on to continue to grow the #1 sports podcast in the world with New Heights with him and Travis, and watch Travis play. Absolute professional, a larger than life figure. Really enjoyed watching him play. One of the most athletic centers you would see. A guy that knew so much, was a genius at the center position, like a Jeff Saturday. The guy knew every protection, every blitz, everything. He gave everything he had on the field through injuries, through everything. So much so that Nick Sirianni, his last coach, he got drafted by Andy Reid. His last coach, bought him kegs of beer the last 2 years for him to come back and not retire. And I just want to give out a round of applause. Hell of a career. And enjoy your retirement. You deserve it. You're one of the greatest in this game. You will be remembered that way. You will go into Canton as a first ballot Hall of Famer and probably goes down as the greatest center of all time. So shout out to Jason Kelsey. Saw the press conference. He was very emotional, crying, telling a lot of stories. It was really nice to see, and best of luck to all his future endeavors. the people that are some rumors that came out of the combine regarding Kirk Cousins. Remember we talked about Flacco and Jacoby Brissett, going to the Patriots possibly to be a bridge quarterback while Drake May, goes forward when they draft him this year. Atlanta and Vikings and Washington are in the mix for Kirk Cousins. Now, what's interesting about this is Atlanta was slated with Justin Fields, and the fact that they're probably there's some of it is they're looking at Kirk Cousins tells me that they could possibly go defense at their draft pick, or go quarterback again and develop JJ McCarthy under him, and then basically undercut the Broncos. Vikings really want him, and that's obvious, when your number one receiver, JJ, who you haven't paid yet, and you're going to have to pay top dollar to and break the bank for, says that, hey, I want Kirk Cousins as my quarterback, it makes it tough. But Kevin O'Connell, their coach, seems very, very positive and sure that they can get an agreement done with him. And then Washington's in the mix. And that was interesting because then him going back to Washington, who was the franchise who drafted him out of Michigan State. If you go get Kirk Cousins, does that mean you still draft Jaden Daniels or you get Marvin Harrison Jr.? Or do you take a Joel? Or do you take Jaden Daniels and sit him behind Kirk Cousins and let him learn for a year? You sign Kirk Cousins to a 1-year deal, and then after that you reevaluate, and if Jaden Daniels is ready, you put him in, and you let the franchise go for the next 10 years. I think that they should just draft Jaden Daniels. Put him under Cliff Kingsbury and let him work magic with his offense. That's just me. All right, let's move on to... Man, 52-point blowout win by the Boston Celtics over the Golden State Warriors. Listen, we've talked about the Celtics ad nauseum. I don't care. I do not care what they do in the regular season, because their destiny, the thing that they will be judged by, especially this season with everything they have going for them, their roster, how they've played and everything, it is championship or bust. Some people say, if they go 7 against the Denver Nuggets and lose, it's not a failure of a season. Wrong. It is a failure of the season. You are dominating the regular season. You are a dominant team. You seem a tier above every other team in your conference. I'm not going to say over Denver because it's not true. And they're going to face each other here, I think, this upcoming week, which is going to be a very good litmus test of what, the second time of maybe what kind of finals matchup it would be. But I do not care about what you do in the regular season. Don't care who you blow out. Don't care how you play. You're not going to shoot 56% from 3 in the playoffs. It ain't going to happen. You tried to do it last year. It did not. You went you went down 0-3 against the Miami Heat because you weren't shooting that type of clip from the 3-point line. And there is something about that team, and I think it's Joe Mazzulla. I think when you match up Joe Mazzulla to everybody else coaching in the East, he's at a disadvantage in experience. This is only his second year coaching. And, if you're going against Spoelstra, Rivers, Nick Nurse, you're facing guys who's won championships. Guys who know how to get it done. Scheme guys, especially in Spoelstra and Nick Nurse. Spoelstra defensively, Nick Nurse can run an offense and runs a pretty good defense as well. That's how he won with the Raptors. So I think that there is definitely a gap in coaching. Now, roster-wise, I think that you guys have the best 1 through 5 roster in the league. Put Denver there as well because they have the number 1 net rated starting 5 in the league. But I like I said, 52 points against the Golden State Warriors when Pajinski's not there, Wiggins not there. You don't play Porzingis. And you're winning by 44 at halftime. Hey, good job. Good job. Steve Kerr with the strategy of sagging off of Jaylen Brown. I found it hilarious. But then he dusts you for 19 in the first quarter. Now, he only scores 29, so you hold him to 10 the rest of the game, which is in one quarter you score 19, rest of the game you score 10. Kind of speaks about your aggressiveness or lack thereof. Jason Tatum scores 27 on his birthday, on his 26th birthday. Shout out Jason Tatum. Happy birthday. And you get a big win against the Warriors that, you were 0-5 against since the game 4 of the finals 2 years ago. What I want to talk about is the Denver Nuggets, man. Listen, I don't care what anybody tells you. Okay? I don't care what anybody tells you. They are a half game back of the number 1 seed. And they are cruising. Boston seems like they're out to prove something every time on the floor against the big teams. And one thing we fail to realize in the regular season that we see in the postseason is that the road is a lot kind of like the AFC and NFC. The road is a lot tougher in the West. Every team is tough. The East is weaker. And for you to say, or for people to start with this argument of, oh, the Celtics are so far ahead of everybody else. Oh my God, the difference is incredible. Yeah, in the Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference, you can say that. Not in the Western Conference. Because I don't put Boston ahead of Denver in my title favorites. Absolutely not. Because one, Denver has the same core that won it last year. Denver has the confidence that they already did it. There is no trying to prove something. We already got to the mountaintop. We're just going to do it again. We know we can do it again. We have the confidence in ourselves to do it again. And that's why in the last 5 minutes of a game, if it's close, we're going to shut you down. Jokic and Murray going to take over with the 2-man game. And it's wraps. Curtains. Bye-bye. Finish. That's what I see with the Denver Nuggets. The Boston Celtics, to me, Mike Malone is a great coach. A great coach. The Boston Celtics, to me, are... Yeah, we're flashy. We can shoot threes, 46 threes a game and everything, but I haven't seen you in nick crunch time playoffs get it done. Haven't seen it. And we're growing weary as basketball fans of like, can they do it? If they don't do it this year, I think big changes are coming to the Boston Celtics. And there's a possibility, there is a world where either Miami knocks him off, 76ers with Joel Embiid, if he's healthy, knock him off, or the Bucks, who are really gaining steam. Shout out to Damian Lillard scoring 41 with no Giannis yesterday against the Clippers and winning, that they can knock him off before they even get to the finals. That's a legit scenario that can happen in the East. They might not even get to the finals, which is even more of a failure based on the team they just built. You know? So let's go through the NBA a little bit. Like I said before, the Boston's done. The East is done. Milwaukee got to second with that win yesterday over the Clippers. And they have a 4.5 point differential. They've won 6 in a row, and they're 8-2. Absolutely incredible. Doc Rivers has really instilled the defensive end. The Patrick Beverley move was absolutely genius, and he made the team level up the intensity. And what guys that are starting the film are seeing is that they were doing too much defensively and too nuanced defensively when Griffin was there. And now Doc Rivers is just going back to what Budenholzer had in place defensively, which was let's run defensively through Giannis and Brook Lopez. And they're doing absolutely amazing in this stretch. 121.4 points per game, and then a defense of 116.9. 4.5 point differential, 8-2, won 6 in a row. Won against the Clippers yesterday with no Giannis. That seems like a surging team to me. Dangerous. What we expected. Took a while, but we knew we would get here. Dame and Giannis are too good as players, as legendary top 75 players of all time, to keep that level of mediocrity, especially offensively, going. Cleveland has, 5-5. They sputtered a little bit. They're third, 1 game back of Milwaukee. The Knicks are 12.5 back. Brunson's hurt. We don't know what it supposedly was a nerve in the knee. He tried to come back. It's still hurt. We'll see what happens. I think that overall, I think they're going to be fine. They just really need to get healthy within the next few weeks to try to keep up with the Cleveland Cavaliers and maybe try to go get that. They can still go get the 3 spot, but it's 12.5 to 9 games now. Now that's a little bit of separation. They're 3-7 in the last 10, so it's been a rough stretch. Philadelphia have won 2 in a row, 5-5. Maxi's been playing great. So has Tobias Harris, Kelly Oubre, and they're just treading water, hoping that they could get Joel Embiid back. Hoping that they can keep themselves in the top 6. They're 13 games back, a half game back of 4. Orlando, I told you guys, once they got Franz back, that they would start surging again because they were playing really well at the beginning of the season when the whole starting lineup was healthy. 13.5 games back, so a half game back of 5, a whole game back of 4, which is not a lot. They're 8-2 in their last 10, won 3 in a row, and their defense is 109.9. Amazing defense, which is what they've had all year. Paolo and Franz are playing great, so is Jalen Suggs. Markelle Fultz is making his contributions. Wendell Carter, Anthony Black, they have a good young rotation, young legs, and then really explosive offensively. They make you turn it over. And it's so packed from 4, like last week, 4 to 8. We're talking about 3 games. And then from 5 to 8, we're talking about 2 games or half a game or a game and a half. Miami at 7. We don't want to be in the play-in. We're a half game back of 6 of Orlando. We're 8-2 in our last 10. Jimmy just scored 37 against the Jazz. Our defense is playing pretty well, 109.9, but our offense is still at 110.6. Hopefully that gets better with Jovic getting more in rhythm. Jimmy maybe starting to turn on the playoff Jimmy side a little bit just to get us maybe in the top 6, although all they want to do is get in the dance. Bam's playing well. Tyler's playing well. Duncan's playing well. Caleb Martin's playing well. Rozier's starting to get a little bit of a feel. So I like how we're playing. Indiana is 15 games back, 1 behind us, 5-5 in their last 10, lost 2 in a row. They're kind of sputtering a little bit. And then Chicago, 5-5 in the last 10, and Atlanta 4-6 in the last 10, but they have Brooklyn is 2.5 games back, but they are 4-6 in the last 10, so I don't think they'll get to Atlanta. 3.5 games back is Toronto. I still don't think they'll get up there. And then Charlotte, Detroit, and Washington. Washington now losing 15 in a row, 0 of 10, of course, in their last 10, and Detroit passed them. As you know, Detroit used to be the worst team in the NBA. Now it's Washington. So Jordan Poole went from $120 million, supposed to be the star and cornerstone piece of the Washington Wizards. And this team went from being 14th all year to now being last. And the team that passed them had a 27-game losing streak. And they're at 15 straight right now, the Washington. So we can have possibly 2 teams go on 20-plus game losing streaks in one season. That's incredible. That's hilariously bad. Moving on to the West, it changes every single day. Every day. It was Oklahoma City Thunder above Minnesota yesterday, and then they lost to the Lakers, and Minnesota goes up a half a game again. Minnesota 7-3 in the last 10. They lost against the Clippers by 1, 88-89. Looked like a very playoff atmosphere type of matchup. Very defensive oriented, which is what I expect with the likes of Kawhi, Gobert, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, PG, Norman Powell, Russell Westbrook. He has a fractured hand. They're expecting him back. He just had surgery. They're expecting him back for the playoffs. We'll see what happens to their rotation, especially on the bench. Probably Terrence Mann's going to take a bigger role, and so is Norman Powell, he's been doing great. He's probably a 6-man of the year candidate, if not the leading one this year. OKC's half a game back. They're 7-3 in their last 10, so nothing to panic. But they lost to the Lakers. So that shows experience, still kind of plagues them, which is understandable. Denver is half a game back and 1-6 in a row, 7-3 in their last 10. It is scary when, for example, when they went against the Lakers were not dominating, but like leading the game most of the time. And the last 5 minutes of the game, Jokic and Murray kind of just took over. Now, MPJ went 10 for 10 from the field, 5 for 5 from 3-point, scored 25. But Murray scored like 27, and Jokic did his thing. In the last 5 minutes, there is no stopping a Jokic-Jamal 2-man game because you still have to wait. You still have to worry about Aaron Gordon. You still have to worry about MPJ. And KCP wasn't even on the floor. Aaron Holiday was on the floor. Peyton Watson, Braun. Those were the guys on the floor. So right now, to me, that's the most dangerous team in the West when we get to the playoffs because I know Jokic is going to increase his productivity and efficiency, and I know Murray's close to a 30-point scorer in the playoffs. They're cruising. Half a game back of number 1. Ratcheting it up a little bit. 1-6 in a row. So ratcheting it up a little bit. When they get against Boston, it's going to be a very interesting game because if they win that game, I think that it's going to be, okay, Denver is clearly the favorite. The Clippers are 3 games back, so it's a little bit of separation. 5-5 in their last 10, so a little bit of sputtering. But I'm pretty confident as long as they stay healthy with Kawhi, PG, James Harden, Russell now waiting for the playoffs. I think that they're going to be a legit title contender. New Orleans is 6.5 games back. So there's a little bit of separation, 3.5 games. They're 6-4 in their last 10, 1-1 in a row. Zion's playing great. Trey Murphy looks like he's gotten his 3-ball back like he used to, like last year when he was cooking 26 a game for that stretch. CJ's playing well. So is BI. Dangerous team. Like I said, dark horse. Phoenix is 7.5 games back. A game back of Phoenix. They're playing well. They just got Bradley Beal back. 5-5 in their last 10. I expect them to make a little bit of a push coming down the stretch if Bradley Beal is healthy. because their offense is elite when Bradley Beal is on the floor. Now, what I worry about them is their bench depth. Same thing with the Celtics. Pritchard, Hauser, how are they going to fare in the playoffs when they have to go in? Now, playoff rotations do get shorter, so you don't play that many people off the bench, but the people that you do play off the bench better be efficient and valuable when they do come in. Sacramento's at 7, and it's kind of just like they're just hovering there. They're 8 games back, half a game back of 6, 5-5 in their last 10. It's a weird team. You know, they're good, but they're not as good as they should be. Dallas kind of came back down to earth. They're 6-4 in their last 10. Luka's playing out of his mind. So is Kyrie. But for some reason, they have defensive lapses at the worst times when they're leading games and stuff like that. That's not good. But I feel like Kyrie and Luka will turn it up a notch when they get to the playoffs like they always do. The Lakers are 9 because they won against OKC yesterday. They're 7-3 in their last 10, playing good ball, but I think they're gonna realize that they're running LeBron and AD into the ground. They've been healthy all year. D'Angelo Russell's starting to play a little bit better. Austin Reeves is playing better. They still haven't gotten Jared Vanderbilt back. Cam Reddish is defending pretty well. So is Taurean Prince. They're making their threes the last few games, which is something we haven't seen all season. But is it sustainable? Is their key. And then Golden State at 10, half a game back, 7-3 in their last 10, lost to the Boston Celtics. I think that they're going to be doing great. I do think that they're going to keep going on this kind of roll. I think that was a one-off. Celtics came out. They wanted to beat them. They hadn't beat them in a couple years. So I think that they came out with that fervor of like, nah, we're gonna whoop you. And, you know, Jaylen Brown took it as disrespectful of sagging off of him and stuff like that. But, you know, what can you do? I think Golden State is they're firmly in the 10th spot. Utah's 5 games back. Okay. So there's only moving up at this point. You got to hope that the Lakers lose. Dallas starts losing a little bit. Sacramento, so you can catch up with your wins. It's very tough in the West. Extremely tough. You know, you're talking about from 5 to 10. It's separated by 4.5 games. 4 games. Like, it's insane. Most of these races are half a game between places. This changes daily. Utah, I like what they're doing with Keon George, starting him. That's gonna bear fruit next year. The Rockets are the Rockets. We've talked about them ad nauseum. Memphis is playing Gigi Jackson. I love it. They're not starting him, but they know that they have something with him. Portland is hurt beyond measure. Scoot with an ankle. Shaden might miss the whole season if he gets surgery. I'm not, there's nothing to talk. Anthony Simons is playing well. And Wemby was the first player in NBA history to go a 5-by-5 game, 7 games in a row. And I think that's just going to be what he is. I think he's going to start. He's here now. He's accustomed to the NBA game. He is extremely scary. He could get you a steal, get you a block, score a bucket, shoot the 3, create off the dribble, pass, rebound. I mean, he do everything. Exactly what he was coming out the draft, a generational prospect, the most generational prospect in the history of the NBA since LeBron. He is that dude. And now they're debating, San Antonio, what are they going to do? They should build around him. Are they going to get him Trae Young? I don't think Wemby does not want to keep losing. Wemby's not the guy that you build around 2, 3, 4 years. You build around him now. Because he's ready now. Next year, he's going to be probably 24, 25 a game, maybe 26, 10 rebounds, leading the league in blocks. He's gonna shoot maybe 38% from 3. Like, he's going to be a legit all-star, if not an all-NBA, all-defensive player, year 2 at 20 years old. So if I'm Pop, I'm like, damn, Okay, I got Devin Vassell, but other than that, we need a point. We need a star to come over here. And there's people that want to play with him, and they have cap room to play with and picks. So we'll see what they do. They're going to have a lottery pick this year for sure. They're probably going to be the third worst team in the NBA, considering that Detroit and Washington have, in total, 18 wins between them, and Wemby has 13. But, other than that, they have to build around them. He's ready. He's ready to take over the league. I think he's going to be one of the faces of the league moving forward. He has the charisma. He has the I want to. Him, Anthony Edwards, and Luka are going to be the next echelon of absolute superstars, with John Morant, Zion Williamson, Shea being in that mix. And if they get championships, they will definitely rise up to that level. But to me, it's Luka, Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama. Chet will be there, but Chet is with Shea, so that's going to downgrade him a little bit as a number one option, because Shea is Shea. But I think those are the faces of the NBA. Tatum is already 26. Anthony's 22. Wemby's 20. Luka's 25. Just turned 25. So I think that's the future of the league. LeBron hits 40K points. And they lose. And they lose to Denver. They lost during Kobe statue reveal night. They lost opening game against Denver of the season. During ring night for Denver. I believe they lost when LeBron broke the record against OKC, the scoring record, and passed Kareem. So he passes 40,000 points. People are saying, is he the GOAT now because he's the only one in 40,000 and everything? Listen, the only thing that can add to LeBron's legacy at this point is championships or MVPs. Do I think that he's going to get any of those within the next 2 years, which I think that's what he has left? No, I do not think so. So I think that he is firmly at number 2. The only argument he has now is just longevity. 21 years, 22 next year. But 40,000 points, shout out to him. Incredible. It's a feat of longevity and a feat of excellence. But it doesn't lead to winning this season, obviously not, because you lost every single time a special moment was happening. So you don't show up to the occasion. Either it's not you, actually. You played a good game. It was your teammates. 17 points against Jokic. That's not going to get it done. Anthony Davis. That's why you will always be forever a number 2 on that team. No matter how old LeBron is, you will always be a number 2 because you don't show up every single night. When you need him the most, he sometimes disappears. But shout out to LeBron, 40,000 points, incredible achievement. And you're just going to keep adding to it. You've been breaking, it's a record every time you step on the floor for minutes played, for points. You're still climbing up the assist rankings. You're still climbing up the rebound rankings. So, number 2 all time. What can you say? And that is episode 87 of The Exec Talk with El Velez. Went through a lot today. I hope that you enjoyed my analysis. Please hit the comments. If you have questions, DM me on anywhere. DM me on TikTok. Send me a Snapchat. DM me on IG. And then put comments in the comment section. I will answer. And maybe if there's enough, I'll make a Q&A. I'll make a Q&A session in one of the episodes. So I can answer your guys' questions. I would love to see what you guys think of my takes, whether I'm wrong, whether you think I'm completely off base with some things, whether you agree with me, or you want to bring in your own takes and we can discuss. I love you guys. Thank you. This has been El Exec Talk with El Velez. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on my socials, link in the description, and I leave you all with the outro.